So in this one we're going to cover notifications. These are probably the bit that I find most interesting and most useful about Most versus maybe CAN bus. If we jump into the data sheets, we're going to go into the general F-block one. So this is what pretty much every device has implemented at the most basic level. So you can see here, generally the numbers are from 0 to 200. They're the general F-block functions. And any device can have these, and they're the same across all devices. So the one we're going to look at is notifications. So in notifications, if you register in a device for a notification, you'll get a message sent to you every time a value in that device changes. So if we're thinking about the CD player, every time the disc changes, we'll get a message telling us that the disc has changed. So we haven't got to keep asking the CD player, what disc number are you on, what disc number are you on. We actually get the notifications and it will notify us, and we don't have to do any more. So it's probably the most exciting part, I think, of Most when you're looking at, maybe implementing into it. So if we do the usual when we request the registries, and then we go to audio disc player. Now we want to first get the functions. So these are the ones that come through. If we just check what notifications are, so they're 0x01. If we look at the structure of the message, we don't want to be sending a get for this one. We want to be sending a set, because we're setting our address into the device to register for the notification. So if we look under the set op type, there's a bunch of parameters: control, device ID, function list. So if we look through on control, you can send 4 different values. So you can either set all, you can set it for a specific function, you can clear them if you don't want to receive them anymore, or you can clear for a specific function if there's one that you don't want. So we're going to do a set all. So our first byte is going to be 0. The device ID is then our device ID, so where do we want those notifications to be sent. So the default one for the PiMost is 0x01 and then 0x10. So if we try and send this to the CD player, so if we change our function to 1, we want to change it to a set. So the first one is 0x0, because we want to get all of them. Second byte then is 0x01. Third byte is then 0x10. If we now send that message, you see there's an absolute flood of data coming in. So all of that data are all of the functions in the device and their current values. So if I was to now just press skip on the CD player, you can see we've then got another flood of devices, messages come through, and they're all the different functions that are changing. If I skip forward again, you can see another bunch come through. If we look at these to just verify what it is that we're seeing, you see 201 is being sent very frequently. So if we go back to the audio disc one, we find 201, and that is time position. So displays current or setting of a new position in milliseconds. So we're getting a status come through, so that's position followed by data. So position is 2 bytes, X and Y. See, byte Y is unused, so that's always 0, and then byte X will relate to something. So if X is equal to 0, that means the message we're getting contains disc time, track time, title time. If it's equal to 1, it's just disc time, 2 is just track time, 3 is just title time. So if we go back to our messages and we see what we're getting, see we're getting a 2, so that means track time. We're then getting our milliseconds, which is assigned long. So that assigned long is going to start not from the first byte, not from the second byte, because remember we've got X and Y. It's going to start from here, and it's going to be 4 bytes. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if we was to take that number and we was to pass that out into an integer, that's how many milliseconds we are into each song, and that would just keep counting up and keep notifying us every time that that value changes. So as you see, with notifications, they're probably the most useful feature. You can start your app, you can then subscribe to a bunch of notifications in every device that you need to, and whenever those value changes, they just get sent straight over to you, and you can do whatever you need with them.